WOLB Baltimore and WERQ FM HD3 Baltimore, celebrating Radio 1's 42nd anniversary.
Our Radio 1 family, our employees, their family members, our listeners, our viewers, our extended family.
And serving the African American community for over 42 years.
The views and opinions of the guest and host you hear on 1010 WOLB
are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
Welcome to Pocket Watchers. I'm your host, Treetop Chris. On this show, we talk about nurturing your wealth and cultivating your future through financial education. Let's talk finance, people. Peace, 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 family. It's your boy, Treetop Chris, checking in on this Wednesday. This is episode 5 of Pocket Watchers. I hope everyone had a wonderful day. If you're in the car right now, please drive safely, but listen closely. If you're at home, I want you to just chill out, relax, and let's talk money. All right. So let's get into it. A lot of people right now are thinking about the government shutdown. I heard some talks about that prior to my call. My show actually, but I want to speak to that before I get into the show. The government shutdown is something very serious. It's going to affect a lot of people, especially our government workers. But I want to just speak to you all very clearly. Government shutdowns is something that's going to happen because just like any other company, because I want you all to understand, United States of America is a company organization. It's a company. The president is the president of a company. Think about that and understand it. Because if you think about it in that way versus just, it's the land of the free, home of the brave, etc., you'll understand that there are people at the top who make decisions that affect a lot of people, and they may be selfish. They may not be selfish, but their decisions will affect us in the company organization as employees. Even if you don't work a 9 to 5, you're still under the corporation of the United States. If you go to a website called Dun & Bradstreet, you can look up the United States Corporation, and it'll show you that they are indeed a corporation. So these government shutdowns are going to happen. How do we prevent them from affecting us in a way that is long lasting? Because it's going to affect some of us if it happens. It's looming, it's there, and it has happened before. But how do we stop it? We can't stop it. Those people are going to make their decisions. What's important is that we make the right decisions to prepare ourselves and protect ourselves from the consequences of these people making these decisions that are really for the greater good, they say, but they're really for their individual needs and the needs of their families. Because if you're going to work every day, yes, you care about people around you, but you're really going to work so you can make sure you put food on that plate. You're really going to work so you can make sure that your family, or just you, if you don't have a family that is, kids or whatnot, that you're doing okay. So a lot of what I do is to prepare you all for situations like this. Any type of pandemic, government shutdown, inflation, you have to have the financial prowess or the financial education to prepare yourself for these things. Shout out to everybody on TikTok that's following me right now. That's on my live. Hey, everybody. If you want to join into the live, it's Treetop Chris _. If you want to give us a call and talk and ask a question, the number is 410-481-1010. It's in the live for the people who are interested. Thank you all for the likes. Thank you all for the love. But again, those people who are going to be affected or potentially be affected, the people that work for the post office, the people that work for the government. Some of the people that work for the government might be furloughed without pay. Some of the people that work for the post office might be in the post office working without pay. I want you all to know the number one goal when you're out here trying to survive, you must have a budget. One of the most ickiest words you could come across. You must have a budget. You must have some type of safety net. A safety net is there so that when you go on vacation and you come back to a government shutdown, your bills are paid. Think about that for a second, right? When you come back to these people making these crazy decisions, you are okay. This is why I do what I do. I'm a money coach at the core. The people that I work with, they're good. And if they're not good, it's my responsibility to make sure that they're straight, not just theirs, because I care about my clients. I care about the people that are listening to my voice here. Again, this is Treetop Chris for the people that are just joining. How do we do that, right? I'm going to give you just a quick budgeting structure, right? Again, this is all to prepare you for these decisions that these people are going to make that are going to affect us regardless. It doesn't matter if you're going to work every day and doing what you're supposed to do. They make a decision, boom, like a light switch, it affects you. So pay attention if you can. Your budgeting structure, let's get started. You want to take 50 to 60% of your paycheck, fixed costs. What's a fixed cost? You're talking about costs that are always going to be there every single month. Every single month, y'all. We talking rent. We talking mortgage. We talking debt payments, things like that. You want to have it for where as though I know for sure that my check, when it comes, these things are paid. 50 to 60% of your check you want to put aside for those fixed costs. Can you do that? If you can't, well, I can't tell you what's going to happen, but if you got it, you got it. A lot of us have made it this far without having any type of budget at all until the time it's needed for us to kind of try to scramble and get those funds. But I want to make it easier for you because the government is going to, sometimes they're not going to make it easy for us. A lot of the time they're not. It's not their job to make it easy. It's their job to do their job, whatever that may be for their in particular positions. 50 to 60% for fixed costs, rent, mortgage, debt payments. Now we're talking 5 to 10% in emergency funds. As soon as that check comes, you divvy it up the way I'm telling you. 50 to 60% for fixed costs, 5 to 10% for emergency funds. Emergency funds like, hey, we used to have a piggy bank when we were little. Some of us had cash registers. Some of us had whatever we had, a shoebox, a sock, whatever you want to put that extra money in. I need you to put 6 months. 6 months. Start off with 3 months. If 6 months sounds like it's too heavy, you don't have to take all of your check and put it into your emergency funds. I'm talking 5 to 10% each check. Just put it to the side, y'all. Put it to the side. That way, when you need it, they used to call it a rainy day fund back in the day, right? Y'all remember? Some people still call it a rainy day fund. It's an emergency fund. It's a rainy day. Remember, because I'm not going to get on the conspiracy theory with you all, but they can make it rain. And I ain't talking about it at a club where people wear different kind of clothes. I'm talking about they actually make it rain, like actual physical rain. So if they can make it rain on you from the sky, they can make it rainy day when you don't want them to. So we need to keep that rainy day fund at 5 to 10% of our check. So 50 to 60% fixed costs, 5 to 10% emergency funds. 5 to 10% for investments. Last week, I talked about a few investment options. And the week before that, I talked about a few investment options. But I like to talk about these investment options because you have to have some money that grows outside of a house. Some people don't even own a home. But if you don't own a home and you're renting, you want 5 to 10%, regardless if you're renting or owning, go into investments. And I give a lot of different investment ideas on my page. I give a lot of investment ideas on the show. Again, this is week 5. I promise you all that this week I will start to load everything on YouTube, Treetop Finance. So you can go back and look at all of the information that I shared in the previous weeks. So please pay attention to that. 5 to 10% for investments. And very lastly, well, let's go back through the gambit. 50 to 60% for fixed costs, rent, mortgage, debt payments, etc. Things that don't change every month. 5 to 10% for emergency funds. 5 to 10% for investments. And then we get to my favorite part. 20 to 35% for miscellaneous costs. Let's take the big word out. For guilt-free spending. Guilt-free. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to have a good time. Money. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to buy me some clothes. Money. I'm going to treat myself, or I'm going to treat some people that I love. Money. Think about that. 20 to 35% for that guilt-free spending. So we got 50 to 60 for fixed costs, our bills and stuff. We got 5 to 10% going to emergency funds. We got 5 to 10% going to investments. And then we got 20 to 35% in guilt-free spending. That's a very, very simple budgeting structure. If you hire me to handle your financial planning, It gets a little bit more granular. I'm a lot more specific in where the funds are. I give you a lot of access to a lot of different resources to basically put your finances on autopilot, your investing on autopilot, your budget on autopilot, everything that you do with finance on autopilot so you can just enjoy life. What does that life look like to you, though? Are we out here trying to get rich, y'all? Are we trying to just live? It's a lot of different perspectives out here. Me personally, I just want to be financially stable. I am a financial planner. I'm a money coach. Am I financially stable? I would believe so. But there's always room for improvement. But I want you to stop and think for a second, because I gave you a budgeting structure. But what do you really want out of life when it comes to money? Why do you want to have everything? The question that I ask some people, when it comes to finance, and they're like, I want to be rich. I want to have all the money I can have so I don't have to worry about money and spending and living. You think you're not going to have to worry about it if you're rich? It's harder than it is when you're broke. When you're rich, it's going to be hard regardless, y'all. It's going to be hard regardless, but it's all about perspective. Is it hard or is it just best practices? When you get up in the morning, you put your clothes on to go outside. You do that because you don't want anybody to see you butt naked. But when it comes to your finances, you got to think about it. And it's frustrating. It's difficult. For some people, it's like that. You don't want to think about it. But it should be just the same as you getting up and putting your clothes on every day. It's putting that mindset in your head. Like, I need to make sure that I budget in the back of my mind. I need to make sure that everything is taken care of in a way that is second nature. On the first two episodes, I believe it's the first episode, I talked about driving a car. We're not going to go back into that, but I just want you to understand that finance should be a second thought. But secondly, I want you to think about what your ideal lifestyle is if you had everything in order when it came to money. What's your ideal life? Is it $1 million? If I gave you $1 million a day, what would you do with it? I'll wait. What would you do with it? Some people will buy a car. Some people will buy a house. But then what? If you look at sports, right? A lot of people want to be NFL players, NBA players, a lot of guys. A lot of those athletes go broke right after they get their money. Why? Because they said, I want to get rich. They did everything they could. They put their body on the line so they can make some money. They put everything on the line so they could make some money. And then they got the money and they said, I don't know what to do with it. See, that's why you get with someone who understands finance, or you take the time to look into financial education, because if you don't know what to do with it before you get it, you're going to have the same problems you had before you got it. Do y'all hear me? If you don't know what to do before you get it, you're going to have the same problems you had before you got it. Why? Because the best practices aren't in place. The budgeting structures aren't in place. The tax people aren't in place. The financial planners aren't there for the people who need them. Because some people are just super busy and they can't focus on their finances. So they have to trust somebody else to do it. And I really, really push that for people. It's not absolutely needed. I'm not getting on here to sell myself, y'all. I'm just getting on here to make you think. We're thinking about everything else in the world right now. But the last thing we need to think about is finances once we thought about it enough to put in a structure. Your structure every day is built depending on your lifestyle. You can't look at someone else and say, I want that life for myself, because it won't be the same. It won't be the same. The football player that has 10 trophies, 10 rings is not the same as the football player that doesn't have any, even though the football player with none might have more money. You see what I'm saying? Everybody's life is a little different. Everybody's goals might be similar, but how they get to that goal is totally different. So again, take a step back, y'all. What would you do if you had everything you needed financially? How would you spend it? How would you live life? If you can figure that out, I guarantee you're going to be like, well, I never really thought about it like that. I never really thought what I would do once I had it. People want to hit the lottery. Hit the lottery and then what? They're going to go on vacation. They're going to do all the things they feel like they never was able to do. And they're going to sit there with all this money. People are going to be asking you for money. That's going to be another drain. But what changed? Nothing. Now, there's the situation, right? Best practices, y'all. Just think about it. All right. Now, once you think about that ideal life, does that include what we're talking about in our next segment, which is renting versus owning? We're talking about houses. We're talking about apartments. We're talking about condos. We're talking about renting versus owning. A lot of people that follow me, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people. Some people that follow me have never lived in a house that they owned. Some people that follow me have been in a house for years, decades. I know you can't reach out. I wish you could give me a call. Again, that number is 410-481-1010 for the people on TikTok that can hear me. I can't allow you in here. I tagged the number so you can call in if you had a question. This show is very short. It's about 30 minutes. So please forgive me if you don't get those calls in. But renting versus owning. We had a big argument. Well, I wouldn't say argument, a conversation about that. Like, what is the benefits, especially right now with inflation rates so high and we got this government shutdown going on because of money. Would you rent or would you own nowadays? Now, let me give you an example. It's a couple that was renting their apartments for $1,800 a month, right? They said that they wanted to get a $400,000 home. Okay. You know, the average going rate for a house right now, $300,000, $400,000, depending where you are. Now, if you're going from $1,800, how much you think you're going to spend on a house a month? $3,500, $3,600, $4,000, depending on where you are, depending on the interest rate, from $1,800 to $3,600. That's a big amount of difference, right? So people would say, hey, I'm gonna have to skip the owning. And then other people were like, hey, I'm going to do what I have to do to get that house because it's an investment. Think about it, though, because now you're talking about what's your ideal life. Do you want to have to pay $1,800 and then the other $2,000 or so or $1,500 or so goes to investing or goes to a better lifestyle? It's just a thought. I want y'all to think about money. That's what we do every day. Every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We think about money. I want y'all to think, y'all. Would you rather pay that $1,800 or that $3,600? Now we thinking short term and long term, right? In the long term, you end up with an asset. But any way down the line, something could happen and you're not able to pay for that asset, you lose it. Same thing could happen as a renter, but it's a little bit deeper when it comes to owning versus renting. When it comes to owning, yes, you will lose the asset. Yes, it could be a big problem if you can't handle the maintenance of the home. When you're renting, who handles the maintenance? The landlord. When you own, who handles the maintenance? You. You and your whatever support circle you have. That's who handles the maintenance on your home. But I know a lot of y'all are responsible. I know the people that already have their houses have been in there for years, but I'm just speaking to the people who are trying to decide which way to go. I personally suggest that you go with whatever your ideal lifestyle looks like. Remember, we talked about what you would do with that money if you had it. I gave you a budgeting structure. If your budgeting structure includes rent or mortgage, you have to decide that. This is one of the biggest decisions you're going to make in your life if you're going to buy a home or rent. It's the American dream. We talking about all of the stuff that's happening in America, but the American dream is what? A house and a white picket fence. Am I right or wrong? For a lot of people, a house and a white picket fence. They didn't tell you that your hot water pump was going to blow. They didn't tell you that you was going to need new windows. The roof was bad when you got it, but they told you they just replaced it 3 years ago before you bought it. And then you got the people who got new construction homes when they go into a house and it's fresh, so it could go left or right. But I want you to just take a step back and really think about, is the ideal lifestyle for me to set up shop in a certain area for good and own that asset? Or am I going to rent it out eventually? Or should I just rent? Should I go to the city where it's the most moving city, the most highest developed population area, and we just go from apartment to apartment, condo to condo, and that just might be your lifestyle? Because I think a lot of people beat up people who decide to rent versus owning. You shouldn't get beat up, period, because the way I see it, my ideal life is not your ideal life financially. So whatever works for you, you need to do what works for you, and you need to own it. Not talking about just owning a home, but you need to own the idea that my lifestyle is that I own a home. My lifestyle is that I rent. And don't let anybody tell y'all that it's not a good idea, left or right. You hear me? Please, I hope you hear me. It's Treetop Chris. And today is Wednesday again, episode 5 of Pocket Watchers. We're talking about renting versus owning for the people that are joining. And we're talking about homes. Okay? Now, you're not a loser if you rent. It might just be the best for you, because you could be making $10,000 a month and be paying that $1,800 and it doesn't hurt. Or you could be making, a lot less, and renting might be the best thing for you at that time. But remember, I gave you a budget structure for emergency funds and investments. Your investment could be your home that you want. Your investment could be, anything else that you could think of. But it's not in that guilt-free cost that we talked about. Just run the numbers, y'all. How does it look for you in your life? Again, thank you everybody for joining. Now that we talked about budgeting structures, we talked about renting versus owning. Shameless plug time. Yeah, shameless plug time. I have a website. It's treetopfg.com. On that website, you can go and look at our consultation services. We offer funding for personal and business for credit in the tune of $50,000 minimum for anybody that needs funding. And you'll get that in the form of 0% credit cards and lines of credit, either in business or personal. This is what I do to fund the people in the beginning that want to start a business, or if they just need access to capital, because the money that we use, again, it's not on the gold standard as of the 70s. It is all credit. It just looks like paper when you have it in your hands. But most people use electronic payments these days. So I'll get you some credit so you can have it, so we can float the debt. That's the next concept, y'all. Float the debt. You ever heard that before? Floating debt? What does that mean? That means that if I have payments that equal to $5,000 in a couple months, if I have $20,000 in credit, I can use that $20,000 to pay that $5,000 until I'm able to actually pay those costs. Now, a lot of people say they don't want you to use debt to pay debt, but a lot of people use it, especially people who come from other countries. They come in, they get good credit, and when things are bad for them and their family, they have a large amount of credit that they can use to get them to the time where they can actually pay their debts back. So that's something that we do. We provide credit funding. But outside of that, we provide financial planning and financial investment information, financial budgeting, anything that you need help with your finances. On that website, again, it's www.treetopfg.com. If you want to give us a call in right now, it's 410-481-1010. You can find me online at treetopchris_ on Instagram and TikTok. And we're on Facebook, but we're also on YouTube as well. Again, all of these episodes will be uploaded on YouTube after today's show. This is episode 5 for the people who are just tuning in. Now, the last thing I'm going to leave you with for the people who decided that they wanted to own their home. I talked about it in past episodes, and that is a HELOC. HELOCs and home equity lines of credit. That's what a HELOC stands for. A lot of people do cash out refinances. Basically, the whole point in getting this line of credit from your home is basically another fund that you can use to increase your ability to invest. Or if you have someone like me, I can help you use your HELOC to pay off your mortgage, 30-year mortgage in 8 years. I'll say that again. 30-year mortgages we're paying off in 8 years. We use a combination of different financial concepts and practices. Debt snowball, debt avalanche, velocity banking. These are the 3 concepts that we utilize together. Some of you have heard of these concepts. Some of you have not. But if you want to look it up, in combination, this is what we call treetop banking. But it's debt snowball, debt avalanche, and velocity banking. What do those things mean? Well, we can go in depth If you call me or you speak to me, you can always reach out to me via the website. But sometimes on the show, we'll touch base on them. It's just not a lot of time to go in detail. But when you have those HELOCs, you can use the HELOC to do velocity banking, in which case we can use a large piece of the equity in our home to pay the interest off before it accrues on our home. What? You know, the average price of a home is double when you pay for it after 30 years. If you get a $300,000 home, it's going to be around $500,000 to $600,000 once you finish paying for it. Not when you're dealing with Treetop Chris, y'all. Not when you're dealing with Treetop Finance. You follow me. We're going to be paying maybe, I don't know, $100,000 extra, if that, maybe 80. And I've done this, especially on cars. A lot of people come to me and we pay off the cars extremely faster. So, you know, say you have a 3 or 5 year loan on a car where you can pay that off in a year and a half. And we're not changing. We're not living inside of some budget where we can't spend anything on an orange. We're not doing any of that, y'all. We're not changing how we live, and we're paying off things at an accelerated rate. Who can do that for you? I'm not sure as many people that out here that can do that for you. But the HELOC is how you do it. Home equity line of credit. You can also do a PLOC, which is a personal line of credit. And then you have a BLOC, which is a business line of credit. All of these lines of credit you can use to pay down these debts extremely faster before the interest accrues. Now, you have to see it in action to understand how it works. But I always want to give you guys and gals the idea and the mindset to go out and search. You don't have to hire me. You don't have to listen to me outside of these concepts that I'm giving you so that you can take fully advantage of them. Take full advantage of what I'm telling you. HELOCs, home equity line of credit, debt snowball, debt avalanche, velocity banking. You look up any of those, it's going to blow your mind. Now, if you don't understand it, you come back here and you talk to me and I'll explain it to you. Some of you call me, some people call me and they just like scared to ask a question because they think I'm going to charge them. Look, I get paid for my time, but if I got time to answer these questions, y'all, I'm going to answer you. If I'm driving, I don't care. I'm up every day, 4:30 in the morning before I hit the gym, trying to get this baby weight off me. I ain't having baby in 15 years, but I'm up in early trying to get this middle-aged weight off me. But, you know, just give me a call, y'all. If you have any questions about what I talk about on the show, you know, my number's right there on my website. Don't text me, please. Don't text me. If you want to IM me, do that. But, you know, a lot of things is changing. A lot of people are getting blown up by these scam callers and stuff like that. So, you know, my business, it's a lot. But we're going to end the show right now. We got a lot of time. We thought we had a lot of time, but we're closing up shop, y'all. Your boy Treetop Chris checking in. Thank you for listening to Pocket Watchers, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your night.
You were just listening to Pocket Watchers, where we talk about nurturing wealth, cultivating the future through financial education. For more info, visit us at treetopfg.com or follow me on IG.